Hello again, everybody. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. I am your host, Felipe, and over there, it's Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this morning?
We're good, guys. We're good. Happy to be back. Happy Father's Day to you, Felipe. Austin, me and you, we're just, we don't get anything today. Happy day. We are alive.
you guys have fathers, right? I assume you guys have fathers.
Yes, we do.
Well, I know Austin does. For sure, I know Austin does. I listened to him talk the other day. I feel like it was just yesterday, but no, that was like a while back ago, like earlier in the season, right, Austin, when you had your dad on your own podcast?
Yeah, on the show.
Earlier in the season. It was I believe it was before the season started. I had my dad on Round Trippers, and we spent an hour and a half talking about Little League. It was a good episode so far. It's my most popular episode yet, and as every time I see my father, he always asks, "What's the views at now?" I'm like, "Dad, it's been like a month. It's not going to go up a whole lot anymore." He's like, "I still want to know." I'm like, "You're
still He's going to start taking courses with Gary Vaynerchuk about how.
Yeah.
See, it's all about the process, you guys. That's the thing. It's all about the process. I'm all about the process. The process. Like he talks so much about the process. You think he works for the 76ers, the Philadelphia 76ers. Well, we are here to talk some baseball. I guess this is not going to be too much of a numerifics show, as we're kind of taking a break. It is Father's Day, so I figured, well, let's do something nice and easy. And we begin with the Tommy Pham incident, because this is getting, I don't know, man. Every time you think that the story's dead, it keeps popping up. I mean, there's story. I just did a Google search, and there's stories from like 2 or 3 days ago that are still coming in. What's up?
Tommy Pham has to keep himself relevant somehow. Playing in Cincinnati,
he's having a pretty good season, though.
But it's Cincinnati. He should, in that ballpark, he should be Babe Ruth.
No, I mean, he's 34 years old. What do you expect from a 34-year-old? I mean, this is his last legs. He talked about, I'm here to pad my stats so I can get that big contract. I like players who are honest. That's why I always have a soft heart for Jay Cutler, the former Bears quarterback, not the bodybuilder, because that guy, bodybuilders. Anyway.
But anyway, that was a way for that to go.
I'm sorry, Austin. What was that?
He said weights, exercise.
Well, it's not even about exercise or fitness. It's just about, glamour. This is the equivalent of it's a beauty pageant for guys. It's really what it is.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
but without the talent portion of it, Yeah, I would like to hear Jay Cutler talk about why South Carolina has maps and the other parts of the world don't have maps or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, as you guys know, it started with a slap. Well, actually started way before that. It started with the dumbest fantasy sport out there, which is fantasy football.
Which you were just bragging about winning before the show, as we see the banner behind him for those that are watching on video.
Fantasy football champion of the Football Life League 2021. I basically half-assed my way into having a dominant season. I did go through a little slump there with a couple of my players not playing up to par, but then we picked it up right back up for the playoffs, and there's your result right there. So yeah, no, it was a very satisfying season. It was like one of my favorite teams of all time, regardless of sport. But still, I do think that fantasy football is the dumbest of all sports. You know why? It brings the dumbest people in there. I've played in leagues where you can tell the guys they don't play other fantasy sports but football, so they kind of try to have this fraternity, a frat boy mentality to it. Hey, bro, what are you doing? Why are you picking up players off waiver wire? Because I can.
Because there's a little ad button right next to their face,
and ads everywhere too, because they need to make their money. But still, yeah, so no surprise that a fantasy football league would create the most, I don't know, how you guys describe. I mean, I know everybody has different takes on this, but for the most part, it's considered one of the dumbest things that people have experienced. And I'm looking at myself and I go, man, I could tell you've never played fantasy sports just because you say this is the dumbest thing ever. This is serious, you guys. You heard Pham. He said it was a big money league and Mike Trout sucks as a commissioner. And that there's something about injury reserves not being utilized correctly.
But is 10 grand really that much for them?
Hey man, 10 grand is still 10 grand. I mean, and you're talking about players, right? You're talking about athletes who are super competitive to begin with in a fantasy football league where it seems like there is no Law and Order. It seems like it's all chaotic, but I don't know. I don't know more. I don't know much more of that story. I mean, have they gone into more detail about what the hell happened in this league? Just blurt it out if you have something to say about this.
From what I understand, it sounds like Jock Peterson, he picked up a guy that was injured off the waiver wire and stashed him, and then picked up another guy. I think if I understand the situation correctly, that's what happened. And Tommy Pham got mad and said, you can't be stashing players on your IR. And so, but nobody ever did anything about it. So Jock Peterson just kept the players. Now, I don't know who won the league. Whether that meant Jock Peterson won.
Alex Bregman won.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, they had him. They spoke to him on.
Even then, it's not even like it made Jock Peterson win the championship. So anyway? So I think that's what Tommy Pham got mad at. And apparently he said when he pulled the move, he goes, if you don't undo the move, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you next time I see you. And
I don't think that was it. I think they said, I'm just going to slap the shit out of you when I see you, because it was based on text messages that Jock Peterson was sharing with the rest of the chat.
Yeah, because then he sent the gif of the Padres last year when the season was still active, of they were all throwing like the medicine balls, and the Giants and Dodgers, their guys caught it and they had the logo on their chest. And then the Padres one who had thrown it up, the ball just crushed them. And Tommy Pham took that, I guess, seriously. He took it personally. Well, very personally.
He said that 100 people came out to thank him, players, coaches from the Padres. I'm assuming.
You know the players that thanked him for it.
Yeah.
Me, myself, and I. I mean, because
I don't know. I think I don't know if it's 100 people, but I'm pretty sure there was like a handful of people. I mean, I just don't. I don't believe that everybody in this world hates Tommy Pham. Yeah, he's a little bit eccentric. He's a little bit out there. I don't think everybody hates Tommy Pham like everybody hates Chris Rock or whatever. But I don't know. It's not 100, but maybe a handful of people think. And
I don't think everybody hates Tommy Pham. I think
feel like everybody does now.
I think he's just full of shit. I mean, it's one of those, like, he wants to see how big and bad he is. Like, I'm gonna go just slap a dude out here in left field. Like, what? Like, over like this? I don't know. And it's one of those attitudes I've never liked. I like Tommy Pham, but this is just like leaves a sour taste in my mouth about him. Well, like, this will be what I remember Tommy Pham for.
And I've said this from the get-go. If you are slapping people in left field over money in a fantasy football league, money that you put up in a fantasy football league, and it's like, the rules were established. It doesn't sound like that the rules were you can't be stashing IR players or whatever. You can't be stashing players on your IR or whatever. If you're slapping people over this much money, and he was saying, he's like, I'm a high roller in casinos and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
If you're getting this upset over a fantasy football league, you have a problem like that.
No, I disagree. It's not a fucking problem, all right? I play in free leagues. I play in money leagues. You see me react to people trying to make
would you physically assault a man?
It's the one thing I've not done yet. I've said it before. It's the one thing I've not done yet.
It's on the bucket list before he dies.
It might be. Tommy Pham has inspired me to slap a bitch about a fantasy sport. But no, I'm serious. I mean, listen, guys. Like, you guys know how serious I take this crap. It's supposed to be fantasy. It's just a game to some people. It's not a big deal. But to me, this is the only way that I can still compete on a day-to-day basis, right? It's the only way I can do it, right? Because I'm not gonna join the league. I'm not gonna join Major League. I'm not even gonna play minor league baseball. But and it keeps me, the most important thing is it keeps me involved in the game somehow. It keeps me paying attention to not just my favorite two teams here, the White Sox and the Cubs, but also this is how I know about Tommy Pham, is because I know his story. I'm not gonna remember him as being the guy who slapped Jock Peterson. Because I know his story. I know that he had eyesight problems in St. Louis, and my favorite thing about him is that he admits that he goes on Fangraphs on a daily basis. I've never heard any other baseball player say that about what they do. I never even heard a baseball player say the words Fangraphs, let alone admit that they go on the website on a daily basis.
Who's the player this year that? Well, there's Joey Votto. They wrote the story about Joey Votto about how it might be the end. And then Joey Votto retweeted it. But there was somebody else that mentioned a player that mentioned Fangraphs this year, and I can't remember who it was. And that's going to bug me now.
I mean, I I take fantasy sports seriously too. Like I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to, kill time and analyze
yeah,
stuff like that. But still, like, I mean, I've been in. I will admit, I've been in fantasy sports for a couple of years now. I got in my first heated argument, I'd say, this year, but it's like I'm not gonna. That's as far as it's gonna go. I'm not gonna go out and find the man and physically assault him when you had an argument, and that's it.
What was it? The Kobe and the random person trying to get him to drive to Hodunk place in Texas and fight him.
What the hell?
Yeah, no. There was that was like when Kobe was still alive. He was still in the league, I believe.
I would hope it was when he was still alive.
Duking it out with the ghost of Kobe. But no, there was somebody that came at Kobe on Twitter or DMs, something, and was drive here and fight me. And somebody, it went viral. This was years ago, but I just remember it was this random guy, and Kobe actually responded to it. And the guy was like, "Come fight me, man." I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Well, the reason it keeps being brought out is that Jock Peterson wore a T-shirt that says stashing players on the IR isn't cheating. And he insists that all he was doing is following the rules. Tommy Pham says that the rules are not the way that that Jock Peterson is interpreting them. So I'm still, that's why I'm kind of holding out judgment. Maybe there is something to it. I have a feeling as to what happened, but I'm not entirely sure because the story's not out. So to me, it's kind of moot to put any more hypothesis on this.
We're not going to hear the real story. We're not going to hear.
No, we're not.
Rule. There's no way.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's a $10,000 league, I'm pretty sure they would have no problem paying for a quality website like Fantrax or CBS Sports. If they're doing this on ESPN,
they are.
I thought see, I heard that, and then I heard something else. So for sure, it's on ESPN.
Well, they had a Mike Trout mic'd up last Sunday when they were playing the Mets, and they asked him about what site they're running, and Trout said ESPN. And then he said, but I'm in other leagues. He said, and it was the ESPN broadcast, and he actually caught himself because he was like, yeah, we're thinking of moving it though, because, and then he goes, wait, I'm going to stop right there. and he even said, this is an ESPN broadcast. I can't say that.
Yeah, he knows he's a company guy. That's why people don't like Mike Trout, because he's a corporate guy, right? And so no, it's oh god, now I'm on the Fox News website trying to look for more stories about this. So I think I've what do you call it? I think I jumped the shark already.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, but anyway, I just thought that, like I said, I haven't slapped anyone, but I'm not going to say much worse, but I mean, I am very cringy when it comes to fantasy sports. So I sympathize a little bit with Tommy Pham. And I feel like there's a full story out there that we haven't heard. And the way I see it, he keeps getting poked. He keeps getting what do you call it? Probed by.
Well, I think it's just because he's so pokeable. I mean, everyone at this point, they know it's gonna rile him up, and at that point, I think it's just like a mind game. They're just trying to mess with him.
For the following season.
With this situation, he has what we called when I played sports, baseball specifically. When I played, he has what we used to call rabbit ears.
He like some umpires.
His ears are perked up, and anytime somebody says something about him, he goes, "What?" And he turns his head and goes, "What did you say?" And then every little thing that's said about him bothers him right now. So yeah, he's pokeable, and so yeah, they're gonna poke him because they want the story, and it's not about the baseball anymore. It's about you slap Jock Peterson, and you're now the MLB's Will Smith. So
let's see here.
I
need a picture of Jock Peterson and Will Smith just together now.
We need a mashup. We need Tommy Pham slapping Chris Rock.
All right, so here's some Deadspin. In the run up to the Pham issuing the promise he delivered upon the slap to Jock Peterson, the Reds player alleges Peterson's action of stashing a player in the IR. I guess I don't know. led to anarchy in the league with team managers following suit and crossing uncrossable lines. I mean, guys, this is something like I would bitch about. And I've done it, especially in fantasy football, because again, it's the worst of the fucking fantasy sports. And I've go, hey, commissioner, are you going to do anything about this? Well, we don't really have rules about this. And you know what they call that, Sean? They call that poor commissioning, all right? You know how I commission my league, Sean? Like this, with a freaking iron fist.
But hey, if you don't have the rules in place, you can't change the rules in the middle of the year.
No, for sure. Yeah.
But here's the thing. What is the definition of stashing players on the IR?
Yeah, like if you pick them up and put them on your IR and they're on the IR in real life, then
yeah. I don't,
do you have unlimited IR slots? I don't know.
Like I had one this year. I picked up Shane Baz, who was on the IL, and I put him on the IL because I knew he was coming back. Is that stashing players on the IL?
Yeah, and
IL?
like I said, that's why I'm trying to figure out. So I have a feeling. I have a thought in my head as to what might have happened. But let's see. It's a slap under the man over a shady use of an IR list in the fantasy football league, and that's all they're saying. There's nothing else to it. The only thing is that Pham says, I have no regrets about this. And you know what? Good for him. He's owning up to his actions. Jock Peterson.
He knows what he did, and he's like, yeah, I did it. I'm cool.
Yeah. And Jock has a very slappable face anyway, so it doesn't matter. And and if he's the one who's doing this, I don't have a way to prove it, but I'm pretty sure it's something as something enough to piss off a guy like Tommy Pham, who's very well, I'm not gonna mention any generalities, but I can't. I need more of this. I need to know what it is. I want those screenshots to be shown already so I can see what's going on. You know, the other thing that's missing, probably what I'm thinking here is, if Mike Trout is talking about going to another platform for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That means he's not renewing the league on ESPN. That means Tommy Pham cannot access those rules anymore. Maybe he could on the desktop, but on the phone app, there's no way he can get to it anymore. So I don't know. And they don't even know if Tommy Pham's coming back to this league or not. He says he is. But
yeah, I thought Pham said he quit.
He says that he's open to coming back though. So, but maybe they don't want him back. Who knows?
Yeah, probably at this point.
Stephen Carey is in the comments and he says, I think it could be a new saying in fantasy baseball leagues when someone in the league has you disagree with them. I'll be your Tommy Pham. Like,
it's a good play on I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll be your Tommy Pham.
Don't get me started on Stephen Carey though. Don't get me started on that guy. Jesus. No. Tommy Pham, I would have won that league. Alex Bregman's team was trash at the beginning of the year. Does that remind you of someone? That's something I sympathize. If you play fantasy sports, how do you not sympathize with that? I cannot be the only one who sees it his way. But I could.
His team was trash at the beginning. He should have win.
Some people in the Total Basis Champions League need to start watching out for Felipe.
No, man, don't watch out for me. My team is ass too. Why not? Sure. I got Aaron Judge on my team, but some people would say that Anthony Santander is better. I don't know those people. Or Ian Happ and Anthony Santander is better than Aaron Judge and Cedric Mullins or whatever.
Hey, in my Wharf League, I have Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper, and I'm like in second to last place. And out of all the Earth leagues, I think I'm like 70 out of 75th.
Well, you need to
it's bad.
Go pick up Anthony Santander to save your league, man. And Brendan Rodgers to solidify your infield. Why not?
Ryan Mountcastle,
and then you pick him up and cut him up a week after. Why not? So I could have easily finished 10-4 and dominated that league. Look, I dropped out in week 5 and I finished 7th, so I wasn't even setting my lineup. Oh my God, he's that guy.
Yeah. That was what I had heard. That's why I'm like, Felipe, I don't think you would really agree because he said he just quit like halfway through. Like he threw his fit, picked up his ball, and went home.
I agreed with like half of the things that happened here, but I can't get behind it. That's something like that people in free leagues do. But see, that's the thing, right? That we talk about this all the time. It doesn't matter if it's a free league or if it's a money league. People are going to be assholes about their leagues no matter what. Like who they are in fantasy is who they are in real life. Some people don't like to pay off their money debts. Some people don't. Things don't go their way after like 2 weeks, they quit, whether it's a pay league or a free league. If it's a free league, whatever, it's a free league. If you put in like $100, $500 buy-in, whatever, it's a $500 buy-in. I'll just get some more crypto out of it and make it back. Yeah, how's your cryptocurrency working now, jerks? How's your NFTs looking now? Your bullshit pyramid scheme. Get the hell out of here. Listen to this. I had James Conner on the bench and had Devontae Adams on the bench. Well, my guy, Sounds like a you problem more. No. It's a matter of principle, man. That's what Pham says about the fantasy football league.
Well, then your principle should have been keep freaking playing.
Keep playing, yeah. I mean, I can get down with them on many things, even slapping Jock Peterson. Why not? I cannot get down with a guy who does not build their lineup around. Because I thought fantasy football was the easiest of all the fantasy sports, right? Oh, I just got to do it for one day out of the week, and I'm cool. No, that's not true. That's fantasy football. No, you play once a week, but it's become such a. You have to be really involved if you want to win, or even be competitive, and it's just very frustrating. And the worst part, which you're gonna love this, Sean. Perfect segue.
Yeah.
The worst part is there are no minor leagues to gauge up and coming talent.
In football, yeah, there is none. Yeah.
No. I mean, yeah. Once
once again, it just makes it easier. It makes it another one of the easier sports.
It's not though, because you just talked about it at the beginning of the show or before the show started, because of all the injuries and the flukiness.
Well, okay, easy isn't the right word, but it's one of the more.
It's one of the most. I guess it's one of the most basic ones, but literally
random.
It's more luck than it is skill.
Yeah, because the seasons are shortened. But no, once the top running back goes down and the second running back goes down, it's a total crapshoot. And it just seems like, I think this is what you guys are alluding to. It just seems like, well, whoever's at number one in the depth charts for that week, that's the guy you play. That's the guy you play because he's going to be productive. And it seems like all these players are interchangeable, right? Whereas in baseball, I mean, maybe we're a little bit biased here. But as in baseball, you lose a guy like Juan Soto for the rest of the year, you're screwed. You're not going to, well, right now, Juan Soto's a bad example right now, but in years past, if you lose Juan Soto, you're screwed. You're not going to get that productivity again unless you shuffle the Ian Happs and the Anthony Santanders of the world to kind of match that production.
That is really fun. I just want to mention that because this isn't a show about Juan Soto today, but he's batting .218 with a .217 BABIP. And he still has an expected WOBA over 400 and a WRC plus of 127, and he's batting .218.
Yeah, that explains why my baseball life league sucks so much ass right now. Juan Soto is winning my baseball, and Vladimir Guerrero too, not dominating like he was last year. I got all the Latino players, and they're not doing anything for me this year. Maybe I should just trade them away.
Oh yeah, I'll take them.
Yeah,
come on. I'll give you a Boba Shet and crisp $5 bill for Juan Soto.
Oh, for real? $5 bill? I'll take a $5 bill. Sure. No, you know what? I want Brendan Rodgers, Anthony Santander, and Ian Happ on the way back here.
I thought it was funny. All fantasy season long, Felipe has been talking about how frustrating of a season this has been. And in the Mardi Gras league, the points league that we're in, he's been talking about how he's like, it never fails. I've built up this lineup, and I have a good week. It doesn't matter if I have a good week or a bad week. Everybody breaks their scoring record against me, and they score like 350, 400 points against me. And I don't know what's going on. I'm like, yeah,
man, I have an idea what's going on, but
I'm like, yeah, whatever, Felipe, sure, fine. And then this is the first week that he and I have played each other. My highest point total for a week was 290 points. I now have 335 points going into today. I'm beating him by quite a bit. So he was like, see, this is what happens.
I've given up the most points in this league, and I've scored the fourth highest. And somehow I still got a negative differential. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. It's been happening the last couple of years. So maybe maybe you guys talk about luck. Maybe I'm just not lucky.
Everybody hates Felipe.
Everybody hates Felipe, and they want to pummel him to death. And then somehow my players don't show up either. But yeah, fourth highest scoring output in the league, but has seen the most points allowed. It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. But yeah, let me have Tyler O'Neill and Anthony Santander, Brendan Rodgers,
wonders for the other teams.
Nico Horner. Yeah, I am here to help. I think I've been helping too much for sure. But the Father's Day, we'll figure let's just nice and easy episode. Let's talk about prospects. This is something that we talked about last week a little bit about how much. Well, maybe you guys can rekindle my memory, but we did bring it up as in a little blurb, and I figured this is something that we could talk about in the future. It was like how much stock should we be putting on these prospect lists, prospect rankings, right? Because it started with Royce Lewis and Casey Mize, two former number one pick overalls, and for for the better part of their young careers, they were top 5 prospects at some point in their life. Now one guy needs Tommy John surgery, the other guy needs another second knee ACL repair surgery on the same knee. And again, those are freak injuries, but even when they were playing, they weren't slam dunking their way into Major League Baseball glory here, like Fernando Tatis Jr., who kind of blew up. And even he's hurt. Even he can't stay healthy. Bad back, bad wrist. Eloy Jimenez. I'm looking at the prospect rankings for 2019, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's been kind of up and down, up and down. Remember, people gave up on him in this. Was it his rookie year or his second year?
It was after the rookie year, because that was how. Oh God. But that was kind of how you were able to draft him again when he wasn't kept after that first year.
Yeah, you know what? Let me show the screen so people know what I'm talking about here. Can you guys see my screen? Am I sharing the right screen?
Yes.
All right, so that's Vladimir Guerrero, Fernando Tatis Jr., Eloy Jimenez. He can't stay healthy. Victor Robles is a plus. Royce Lewis is injured. Nick Senzel. Mind you guys, this is Major League Baseball's website. This is not some rinky-dink website. This is not a blog. It's not even a fantasy one.
Well, LLBs has often been considered, probably the worst when it comes to ranking compared to Baseball Prospectus, Baseball America, Fangraphs.
Right, but that's the one. That's the most popular one. That's the one people cite. That's the one that people use all the time because it's number one. It's easily accessible. I mean, it's a pretty nice interface here. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's nice. It's just the analysis is kind of
the analysis. I don't know where the analysis comes from. Right. I mean, Nick Senzel number 6, and this is again 2019, and we could do this for. I mean, Forrest Whitley, Kyle Tucker, and a lot of these guys freak injury. I mean, we make fun of Brendan Rodgers all the time. At one point, Brendan Rodgers was ranked ahead of Bo Bichetti and Wender Franco. So. I don't know, man. And it just makes me wonder, like, because Sean, you and I have been doing some prospect exercises the last couple of years, and where we go outside the top 50, where we go outside the top 100, just to look for talent, or even unranked players, or even players who are just on the bottom of everybody's radar. And then last month we did it by merits. We went and saw the minor league numbers, the minor league leaderboards, to see if we could find any diamonds in the rough. And I like I said last week, I've had more fun doing it this way than doing it this way with the prospect rankings and the prospect rates. There you see Keston Hiura at number 20 overall, Dylan Cease at 21, Joey Bart 22. So with all that being said, I mean, Sean, we'll start with you, since you have a unique insight working for a minor league team before, and doing the dynasty leagues as well. How much stock should we be putting on these prospect grades and prospect rankings and all that?
I mean, especially coming from like a dynasty standpoint, especially in the league that I pay really the most attention to, my 30 team, 40 man. The goal really should be is to get these guys before they ever make a list. Because by the time they're on a list, there are several other owners in this league that check the list regularly. And every now and then one will slip through, like, somebody will graduate off the top 100 and they put somebody in, and boom, they get swiped up. But with our first year player draft, it's all of the available free agents plus the guys from the recent Rule 4 draft and international signings. So it really is like a lot of like looking at the first round picks and the second round picks. And I've always thought it was weird how when it comes to the prospect rankings, you can have guys that were all drafted, in the first round, but it always comes to like the pedigree, which sometimes I agree with. Most of the time I don't, because it's like, oh, this guy hails from this state and he did this, so he's better. What? Like, what are we doing here? And then you get them into their first major, like their first appearances in the minor leagues, and the guy with the better pedigree has a few rough starts, a few rough outings. And everyone's like, oh, well, he's this is what we know about him. It's only his first 5 professional appearances, which is true. But then the guy that they're saying he's better than has 5 great starts and nobody mentions him. And that's always rubbed me the wrong way when it comes to prospects. And so I try and get the guys either before they're even on here, or the guys who will never make it on here just because they're not exciting enough. I mean, there have been guys like that plenty of times before. There will be them plenty of times in the future. Jeff McNeil. I'll always remember Jeff McNeil. Like, he was the same way. Keith Law had a huge interaction on Twitter or something, and he got into an argument with Pete Alonso on Twitter because somebody said, "Well, Keith Law, what do you think about Jeff McNeil?" Oh, he's just a quad A guy who's only tapping into power because he's in AAA now. That's it. And Pete Alonso was like, "No, dude, this guy can hit." And Keith Law was like, "I'm not going to argue with you." And now we see where Jeff McNeil is.
Yeah, and Keith Law still has a job, by the way.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Keith Law gets some things like right on the head, but when he's wrong, I mean, Christian Pache was like his number 1 overall prospect or number 3. Give me a freaking break. Yeah, Victor Robles was high for him too, and it's like all of these guys that the whole projectability and what they're doing now, they'll do better in a couple of years. That's not always true. You can't just bank on that.
Yeah. So it's becoming like the NFL draft where, and I think we alluded to that last week. I mean, do we trust the production of a 2 or 3 year starter in college, or do we go after the guy with the physical attributes who only had 1 good season, but we're going to put our money on him right now because we might be able to develop him even to a better quarterback? And of course, I'm thinking about guys like Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes or Mitchell Trubisky. So so that's what we were thinking about. But I'm highlighting Chris. I'm sorry. I'm going too fast here. So that's what I'm trying to gauge here. Is it going to become like that where we should probably start trusting more of the minor league numbers, or should we just ignore them or not take them too seriously? I'm just trying to find a balance here, Sean and Austin, because it gets really difficult. Because if you trust the minor league numbers too much, I mean, I guess the point is not when you go after the minor league numbers and you don't put any context to it. Like, for example, this guy's hitting 40 home runs, but he also plays in the Pacific Coast League.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So
you definitely have to take into account the context, but it's one of those you can't just dismiss the numbers.
Yeah,
like if a guy's doing good, he's doing good, and you need to at least dig into why he's doing good, which is what the minor leagues is all about to me, is process. But sometimes you can have bad process and good results, and sometimes you can have good process and meh results. I mean, Ahmed Rosario was a guy who had bad process and great results, was a top 3, top 5 prospect in all of baseball.
Right. And
he gets to the major leagues and he got exposed because he just swung. And he had the bat speed to get away with it in the minors, but not in the majors.
So Austin, this is as far as I'm concerned, this is the first year you're in a keeper league. Who are your minor leaguers in that league right now?
In the Mardi Gras league, I had O'Neal Cruz and Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman got called up, so I've now replaced him with Brett Beatty. So I have those, and essentially, I'm still trying to gain better knowledge of some of these guys, and I think I made the original mistake, I think, of looking at the list and going, okay, this is the highest guy on the list I can find, so I'm gonna pick him up.
I think a lot of people go that route.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people go that route, especially at the when they first start seeing when they first start paying attention to the minor leaguers. And I think the reason why I did that is because there are so many minor leaguers that you can't possibly, like, I mean, I guess a better process would be to go through the top 10 for each team and figure out who's done better. In that sense, I think maybe that's a little bit of a better process, but it's difficult to figure it out because most minor leaguers are going to spend 2-3 years in the minors. So that 2 or 3 years, that could mean a lot in terms of development. The injuries, they could get injured, and that could really screw with how well they do in the future. They could play in a different league. They could get traded. There's so many different things that could change the trajectory of their career. So I was looking at the 2019, the top 100 or the top prospects according to Fangraphs. Here are some notable players that were rated below 50. Sandy Alcantara was rated 127. Yordan Alvarez was 125. Shane Baz was 115. Let's see. Tyler Stevenson at 95. You had Nolan Gorman at 85. Jared Kelenic was higher than Nolan Gorman. Jared Kelenic is 84. Will Smith of the Dodgers is at 80. Yusei Kikuchi, 74.
I say Kakashi.
And then Bruzdar Gratterall was 64th, right? Bruzdar Gratterall was rated higher than Will Smith, but yet Bruzdar Gratterall is still not the closer for the Dodgers. Justice Sheffield, remember when there was a big old story about Justice Sheffield?
Yeah, there he is, number 43 here in 2019.
And then Dylan Cease is 58th. And right here, number 48, Pete Alonso.
And I'm sorry, what list is that? I missed it the first time.
This is Fangraphs.
Oh, the current one, or what year is this? Because there's
2019.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, same thing.
So the Pete Alonso was 48th, and now we see the player that he's turned into. So I think the process is more following these players and trying to see how well they do. Because one that I really want to bring up here, highlight here, and he's in the 2019 standings. I mean, you're looking at Vladdy Guerrero, Wander Franco, and Fernando Tatis. Those guys have worked out. But if you go a little lower on Fangraphs, number 11, Joe Adell, the Angels, right? Joe Adell was said to be the next guy to follow Mike Trout and being a really good, not comparable to Mike Trout, but be a really good outfielder and a really good comp to Mike Trout. But as he got higher in the minors, I kept saying, guys, slow down on Joe Adell because he's not doing well in AAA. You look at his numbers, he's not doing well in AAA. He doesn't have a high batting average. He's striking out quite a bit. But then he got pulled up and everybody was like, yeah, Joe Adell is up. And I'm like, no, he's not gonna do very well. What happened? He fell on his face. And he still has not been able to have a solid role in the major leagues. He keeps bouncing back and forth between AAA and the majors. Basically, they only pull him up when an outfielder gets hurt and they need somebody else, right? In 2019, number 19, Christian Pache. We know where he's at now, right?
And really quick, that's someone I really wanted to highlight here because people were up in arms when the Braves gave away 4 prospects, and it's the Braves. Who cares? Their prospects are nowhere near of high level marquee because they're going for it right now, right? They're trying to win right at all costs right now. So they basically traded their number. No, they didn't. Basically, they did. They traded away what people thought was the number 1 and the number 2 prospects, and Christian Pache, Shane Langoliers, and 2 other guys who I don't remember, but those were the big names. And people, oh my God, that is such a stupid trade by the Braves, and you're gonna get Matt Olson, and you better be able to get him into a long-term extension because then this trade is ass and all this and all that. And I'm just looking at this. It's Christian Pache. We don't know what he is. Maybe Shane Langoliers can turn into something, but Christian Pache has yet to prove that he can be anything more than just an athletic player. And you know why the Braves were more than happy to get rid of Christian Pache? Because this is a guy I wanted to talk about.
Michael Harris.
Michael Harris is second. And I don't know if you guys saw that, if you guys had a chance to listen to that podcast that I sent you guys about him over at The Athletic. And it was a pretty interesting story because he was not just, you talk about under the radar. This guy was like an afterthought. He was supposed to be a pitcher. And every time he'd go out and pitch, he was just awful and in front of major league scouts. And it wasn't until, they had him play a game in center field and the Atlanta Braves brass, they saw, oh, wow, look at this guy. He has a swagger to him. He's catching all the balls going his way. This guy can cover a lot of field. This guy's athletic and he has all the intangibles, happy-go-lucky guy, and just puts in the hard work and all that. Another story, again, another intangible story, but I thought it was a pretty cool story about how at a prospect showcase in Atlanta, Michael Harris was the only guy who showed up from the local vicinity because this was around homecoming week, and a lot of the big name prospects of that area did not want to go to the prospect showcase because they wanted to go to homecoming instead. Michael Harris showed up though, took full advantage of that situation, right? And he put his personal plans for his future goals, and it's a great story. And aside from being, I don't know if he's close to being as athletic as Christian Pache, but one thing's for sure is we saw the numbers, Sean, last month. The guy's a player. That guy has the skills to match the athleticism, and I think that's where a lot of these players fail. Because what these high rankings are. When we did the prospects show last month, Sean, as well, the higher ranked guys are usually the bigger guys, the guys with the physical attributes, the guys with the big frames, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and then we saw the guys, and those weren't not because you did this on purpose or whatever. I don't know. It just happened that Sean's guys were higher ranked than my guys because I was just going by production. Remember, minor league production is a little tricky because you got to put context into it, and you can't trust it all together either. But that's how I found out about Michael Harris, because he was doing so well. It was hard to ignore. But we saw the guys who were we were only depending on production. And those guys are smaller, scrawnier. They don't have the high prospect rates that a lot of these other the higher ranked prospects have. And I think that's part of it, as well as the eye test. Oh man, this guy, he's 6'2", 6'3". He weighs 210 pounds. Wait until he fills up. He's gonna weigh 230, and he's gonna just smash balls and hit everything.
That was what they always kept saying about Rosario. Was like, oh, he's never gonna walk much, but he could have huge power. And they just said he's going to grow into it because he never hit for power in the minors. I mean, and even when he got to AAA in the PCL, he was in Vegas. I mean, known hitter's paradise, not much power. And he's shown it at times in the majors, but it's one of those, okay, where's the power? You just sit there for 5 years wondering, okay, they said it was coming. And it's just like, you're waiting on the train. Like, what the hell? And it never comes.
So it's like, again, there's no exact science, even when there's guys. I mean, we're talking about people who have done this for all their lives, right? Somebody's in charge of going out there, looking at these players, looking at the scouting reports, and coming up with a grade. Like, let's go back to Christian Pache's. Oh, I already took it out. Let's see, Pache. There he is, Christian Pache, number 37, ranking back in 2019. And someone decided that Christian Pache was worth a 55 hit tool, a 45 power tool, 70 run, which
I can believe the 70 run 80 field. I'm okay with Patrick having, but
it's 60 overall, by the way. And we're seeing that he doesn't put those numbers. Well, how's he doing in the stats department in Oakland? Batting out $1.63.
Yeah.
How did he do in the minors? Batted .265 and very underwhelming numbers in 2021. And you can say, well, and that's my other question that I had for you guys. How much did the pandemic really affect these guys' development? I mean, you see that big gap between 2019 and 2021, but I mean, maybe it's pandemic based. Maybe these guys were affected negatively by the pandemic, and that's why we're seeing such a fall, such a inconsistency from these hopeful prospect minor leaguers. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think some people got affected more so than others.
Right.
In Pache, if you look at the numbers, he has been a little unlucky. Even his expected numbers aren't great, but he's vastly underperforming those, like 241 expected batting average compared to those. And you would think with somebody like him, with his speed, he would be able to post a little bit higher BABIP and expected batting average, but not so much. But it is a weird thing. And Felipe, I did want to ask you one question. With Michael Harris, do you think it's like legit? Because I saw a tweet that made me laugh, but it also made me like really think about it. Was Michael Harris skipped AAA. He came right up from AA, and in those he debuted on the 28th, which was right before they started their win streak. And he's been on the team the entire win streak. But in that time, they faced the Marlins, Diamondbacks, Rockies, A's, Pirates, Nationals, Cubs. And somebody said, wow, Michael Harris's first look against AAA pitching he's doing really good. And I mean, when you think about it, though, all of those teams, aside from the Marlins, I mean, terrible pitching.
Right.
Pretty bad. I mean, Diamondbacks have been up and down, but Rockies, A's, Pirates, Nationals,
Cubs. They all suck.
I saw the tweet and I was like, yeah, he's doing pretty good against AAA pitching for the first time. And it's one of those, when he starts facing like good pitching and the league has more tape on him, like I'm a little skeptical of Michael Harris, but he's a hell of a fielder. He's already posted 4 outs above average in 20 games. So if you extrapolate that out, that's like a stupid, crazy pace right now.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I feel like Austin was going to chime in on something. Austin, go ahead.
I was going to chime in. I don't remember what.
You lost your train of thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The pandemic. So I think when it comes to the pandemic, I think the farther away we get from the pandemic season, I think that, it's the pandemic affecting these guys is less and less of an excuse. Because especially if these guys are rated as high as they are. Yeah, the pandemic might have set them back a little bit, but we were making fun of the process, whatever. But if you have a process, yeah, it might be a little bit interrupted by the pandemic, when the pandemic happened. But once it gets back to normal, once we went back to a normal season, if you go back to your process, it should be back. Like right. You shouldn't have this. So I don't know if the pandemic really is a problem anymore. Even now, when we talk about the shortened spring training, the shortened spring training was a valid excuse at the beginning of the year, but now everybody should be in full swing. Those short spring training should not be an excuse. Right. For underperformance.
It's kind of like what Sean was trying to say about Michael Harris facing quote unquote AAA pitching. Short spring training, yeah, but now we're in June. Any spring training, excuse might have gone out the window already, because we're, like I said, it's already been 2.5 months already, and technically April was an extended spring training, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. I'm pretty sure players don't see it that way. Playing in cold weather doesn't gonna help them matters, but it is what it is. I mean, we always hear this about hitters. Hey, well, watch out for this guy. He'll start hitting up when the weather gets better. Well, the weather got better. So
where's the production?
Where's the production? My wife calls me every day. Where's the production? What about the production? Why isn't the production here now? So question. So what was the question about Michael Harris? Or was that the
what was like? Are you skeptical at all? Like, do you think that what he's doing now is what is?
It's so. I mean, you should always be skeptical, right? I mean, we're seeing Nolan Gorman, who's a much higher ranked prospect, and he actually went through the process of the whole levels of minor leagues, and now he's going through a big time slump. I think he had a home run last night, but I just saw his numbers of the last 2 weeks, and he's hit a wall already. So it's gonna come. But the one thing that Michael Harris has over a guy like Christian Pache. Yeah, he's not as athletic. I mean, he is athletic, but it's all relative. He's not as athletic as Christian Pache, but he did have the skills to match. I mean, he does limit the strikeouts in the minors. He does know how to take a walk, which is something that we always look for. He was productive in the minors. He did steal some bases, actually a lot of bases. He stole 27 in 2021 and 11 in 2022 in 43 games. Oh, this is 2022. So yeah, so he already has 2 stolen bases in 20 games this year. So I want to say maybe him hitting 324 isn't real, but if he hits like 270, you should be okay with that. Yeah. If he 335, 340 on base percentage, you should be okay with that. Well, can he get to maybe 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases? That might be a nice little goal for him to reach, but anything above that, I would just be
that's kind of where I'm at with him. Like, I don't see the 320, 380 on base. I see the 270, 15, maybe 15-20 with great defense, which those numbers, if you get Gold Glove caliber defense like he's played so far, then that's just gravy for the Braves.
I mean, he's done them a favor. That means Adam Duvall doesn't have to play center field anymore. You don't have to rush Ronald Acuna back to center field anymore. Duvall plays
absolute godsend for them.
Oh yeah,
I mean that outfield defense can still be a little sketchy with Acuna not playing defense, because then you were talking about Ozuna and Duvall out there and
in left field. Yeah, I mean Duvall is natural. I want to say he's a natural left fielder. Ronald Acuna switched to right field because of the knee injury. I'm supposing. Although I think he was already playing right. No, he was already playing right field last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. But then Michael Harris patrols.
That's where he hurt himself.
Yeah, in right field. That's right. Chasing a foul ball. Good. So anyway, so again, under the radar. I didn't know about him until this year. I didn't see him in any prospects list when Austin and I were working on our spreadsheets. I don't know about you, Austin, but I do not remember ever seeing a Michael Harris show up on any of these lists. Do you?
I don't either.
He was 100%.
I'd have to look back at the list, but I don't think Michael Harris was on any of them.
Yeah, he was 100% being overshadowed by Pache, and not even just Pache, but Drew Waters.
Drew Waters, yeah.
Waters was the big hitting outfield prospect. Hey.
Yeah. Well, we are at the 2022 prospect. See how much better it is. And as you see, Adley Rutschman is the consensus number 1 for a lot of these lists. But in the Fangraphs top 100, Rutschman is the guy number 1, followed by Bobby Witt, Julio Rodriguez, Spencer Torkelson, and Riley Green, who just got called up. Austin, let's start with you. Out of those 5, who do you think will be the better long-term player?
Better long-term player. I'm gonna say Julio Rodriguez. That would be mine. Yeah, I know he's labeled as high risk, but I think he's got the one thing I don't think any of the rest of them have that you can't really coach, and that's speed. So I think, yeah, speed comes.
Bobby Witt's pretty fast.
Yeah, but speed comes with speed does come with some injury risks. Usually speedsters they end up hurting their legs, and what they rely on is their speed, and then once they hurt their legs, that's it. But I feel like Julio Rodriguez is starting to come out of his slump a little bit, and he's he's hitting a little more for average, hitting for a little more power. He's starting to steal bags. He's starting to become more of a complete player. I haven't gotten to pay much attention to Bobby Witt this year, but I feel like Bobby Witt has been he's up and down. He's very streaky.
His defense has kept him on the field. I mean, he's like a 1.5 win player right now on Fangraphs. Yeah. And that's his offense is like right at league average, even though he's batting like 220. But the defense is keeping him on the field, which is kind of what I like to see from young players.
Yeah. The thing that makes me really nervous about Adley Rutschman is he's been ranked in the top as the top 5 prospect for like 3 years now. And the Orioles should have pulled him up a long time ago, and they didn't. Why? What was the reason?
Because they have
catchers take one. They do take forever. Catchers do.
Oh, but come on.
I understand they take but when you're the number 1 prospect for 3 years, what's going on?
Guys, they have Pedro Severino on the team. All right, come on.
Was it for 3 years though? Because we just had 2019's pull up, and where was he in the 2019 list?
Nowhere. I think he got drafted.
He got drafted in 19,
and then of course,
you got to wait at least like a year or so, even though he's a college guy. And then you have the pandemic. So I understand Rutschman getting delayed a bit.
So number 2, it's been
he was number 2 in 20, yeah.
But he was gonna take forever too. Like you said, he's a catcher. Catchers do tend to. You have to wait a little longer for those guys.
I mean, at least he's not a prep catcher. I mean, Tyler Stevenson was a prep catcher, and how long did we wait for him? 7 years? 6? It felt like 6 or 7 years.
Wow. So, excuse me. Let's see the stats here. Yeah, 2019, 2021, 2022. So, yeah, he got his 3 years in. But, yeah, I think the pandemic was more of a progress killer for him than anything. So hey, we're still using that as an excuse, aren't we? The pandemic thing. So Adley Rutschman, the one thing that we got to be worried about is catching prospects are a total complete crapshoot, but we're seeing some good ones right now. And MJ Melendez, who I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but I don't.
He was up and down. He had a lot of hype, and then he had a couple of bad years where he was like a 215, 220 hitter with 30% strikeout. Both him and Prado had really bad years in like 19, I believe. And then they came back in 21 and had great years.
And there he is. He's you can see him on the first page in the Fangraphs top 50 right there. MJ Melendez.
So, 24.
Oh, wow. So there you go. There's some hope. Bobby Witt mentioned as well. Yeah, he's been up and down. He's shown some strides the last couple of weeks, but we've seen him show great strides in short spurts, and he just in terms of offense, that's what I was trying to say there. So the jury's still out, but I mean, he was supposed to be a slam dunk player, and he's been anything but slam dunk. No. But he is bringing hope to the Royals, as I mean, you can't go anywhere in Kansas City without them being very giddy about Bobby Witt Jr. Go ahead. I thought Sean was going to say something.
Oh, no.
So I mean, but other than that, Francisco Alvarez, he's still in the works. He's only in Double-A. O'Neal Cruz. It looks like their Pirates had just been waiting for the clock to stop ticking or whatever.
He was also hurt.
Oh, was it? I wasn't aware of that.
Cruz. Yeah, he was
for a little bit, but yeah. Their head of player development came out, and honestly, it would have been better if he just doesn't say anything at all. But they're like, we really want to make sure that when we pull Cruz up, he's prepared for whatever situations we might put him into. He said, we've been working on his defense and adding a little versatility. No. The defense, I don't even mind him saying. His defense and versatility. And then he goes, and pinch hitting.
Oh, it gets worse. Okay.
He said pinch hitting. And I'm like, What?
Listen, man, we heard the same song and dance with Jared Kalenic last year as well. They basically just copy and paste whatever the other teams say about their minor league they're super rich minor league prospects.
When he said we want to make sure he's prepared to pinch hit.
That's a new one though.
What?
The other thing that gets me is they said that they want to try him out in the outfield down in the minors, and they put him in the outfield, I think 2 games. I think he's played left field in 2 games, and he's played shortstop the rest of the time. But in my mind, it's like, why are you trying to put him in the outfield? You're the Pirates. You suck. Just put him in wherever the hell you can put him in.
Well, I will get, not to defend the Pirates, but here from a philosophical standpoint, he's 6'7".
Yeah, him at shortstop is not going to. It could be very good or very bad.
We've seen tall shortstops before. I'm not dismissing it, but it may not be a bad idea to give him some position versatility. That is the way the game's going anyway. You want to see, especially at shortstops, shortstops be able to play multiple positions, as we've seen with a guy like Bobby Witt. He was a shortstop, and now he's been playing third base as well.
Yeah, and Jazz Chisholm, that was supposed to be his calling card in the minors, was his power and defense and speed. And then he gets called up, and he's now permanently at second base because of how, poor his ratings were at shortstop.
By the way, the joke that I was trying to make about the Orioles not bringing up Adley Rutschman, they had Pedro Severino and Chance Sisco. You do not bring them up because those 2 players exist on your team. Come on, you guys. You should know better. Chance Sisco, everybody. Oh, my God. Who was on the 2021 Orioles? I'm in a rabbit hole here. Wow, Pedro Severino had a worse year in 2021 than he did in 2020. And who's their backup catcher? Chance Sisco again. Okay. So those were Austin Wins as well. So, you have 3 catchers going for you, and not Adley. This is why you can't play Adley Rutschman. You got 3 catchers on the big league roster already. Come on, you guys. Have some sympathy. No, it's bad. It's pretty bad. But, we know that there's going to be a waiting period in Major League Baseball for these guys who get drafted number 1 overall, number 2 overall, whatever. You're not going to see them anytime soon. So that's a different discussion. I think, Austin, you and I had that discussion already. About how it's not like the NBA where you're seeing the top guys get drafted and you immediately see dividends from day one almost. Yeah. So
I think that's the most frustrating thing about Dynasty and baseball compared to other sports as well. But it's also the more rewarding thing because you really do get invested in these guys. And I've recently seen, he's having a career year. Gunnar Henderson, a local guy drafted in the first round back in 2019. I think he was in the Rutschman draft, and I picked him up in the 30-team first-year player draft. And either that same offseason or the next offseason, I think it was the next one, I ended up cutting him just because of roster crunch. And now Gunnar Henderson's he's halved his strikeout rate at a higher level. He's, skyrocketing up prospect rankings. And it was one of those, I believed in him, even though he was one of the later first-round guys. Right. And he sat on the waiver wire. Nobody picked him up because he was, not great, but he was an 18-year-old prep shortstop. And now he does this, and I'm like, God, if only I had just held on to him. If only I had believed more. And I sent a token offer to the guy who has him now, and he said, "No, I'm not trading him." And I was like, I had to try.
So I have a very simplistic way of seeing these things, right? So it's I just envision a line, right? It's not the most scientific way of thinking it, but this kind of helps you make sense of things. So you got your athletic guys on one side, and you got your highly skilled level guys on the other side. So for every, I don't know, who's a Byron Buxton, I guess. Byron Buxton. For every Byron Buxton on this side, you get a Ben Zobrist on that side. And the goal is to kind of somehow mesh these 2 entities together, or these 2 qualities together, to get the Mike Trouts, right?
Yeah.
You can either go a little bit over here or a little bit over there. You can get a Bryce Harper on the left side, or on the more skill side and athletic side. Or you can get the I don't know who would be above Mike Trout in terms of athleticism, but not as skilled.
Oh,
Adam Jones, I guess. I don't want to use an old example, but
I think Byron Buxton would be the one in terms of just pure athleticism. He's one of the few I'd put above Trout,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
but even peak Trout, who's more athletic?
Man, that's a good question. But yeah, I think Byron Buxton being on the extreme athletic side, I guess you can now put him more to the left side and put him towards more closer to the middle, maybe to the right of Mike Trout in terms of athleticism and skill. So now we got to think of Christian Pache then is the extreme athletic guy. Really, I mean, he plays for Oakland and he's very athletic. It's just a match made in heaven, but it's still no skill.
Victor Robles.
Victor Robles too. Another good example. On this side, all right. And for pitchers, Sean, as you know, and we listen to Eno Saris all the time. Stuff versus craft and command, right?
Oh, did you see his article on Syndergaard this week?
No, what happened?
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. It was very, what's the not vindicated? Yeah, I guess vindicated. No, that's the word. I'm having a break here.
Was he trying to explain all his struggles and why
he was talking about Syndergaard's fastball isn't back yet, and it probably won't come back this year. He said, but that's a good thing. He's a pitcher, not a thrower. Okay. And that was the thing for years. So many Mets fans, especially his last 2 years where he wasn't, the 2016 Noah Syndergaard, but he was still a top 12, 15 pitcher in baseball.
Right.
And they're like, oh, he's a thrower. He's not a pitcher. And I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? Like, he has 4+ pitches. He doesn't even throw his 5th, which is plus the curveball, which he's throwing more now.
Right.
But it's like, and he has great command. He walked I think less than 5% of batters as a Met. It was 4.8 or 5.2, something like that.
Oh,
and everyone would just be like, oh, he throws 100 miles an hour. He's a thrower. He doesn't have command. He paints the corners. It pitches to contact. And, Saris wrote an entire article about how he's still doing that just like he did in the past. And that's why he's still effective this year, even without the velocity. And I was like, thank you, God. And all these, I posted in the Mets group, and they're like, no, he's just a thrower. And, that's why he sucks, because he can't throw hard anymore. And I'm like, I give up. I freaking give up.
Yeah, the results aren't there, but I don't know. Maybe next year Syndergaard might turn it around, but I don't want anything to do with him this year.
112 ERA plus so far.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah, well,
he's had good starts.
He's had 2 terrible starts, and everything else has been good. And the strikeouts aren't, great. Granted, I feel like there's a lot of people who had high strikeout years in the past whose numbers in strikeouts this year are down by 2 strikeouts per inning. Okay, or it's a weird thing.
Like I said, it's a work in progress. Maybe next year as a very low buy candidate. But getting back to the whole graph thing that I was trying to do here. Stuff versus Kraft. So Kraft would be Kyle Hendricks, and Stuff would be give me a player who has electric stuff but that's all he has is just electric stuff.
Hunter Green.
Hunter Green. Why not? Preferably starting pitcher. Good. And so somewhere in the middle is your big guys, right? The big names like Walker Buehler when he's at his peak, or
Alek Manoah.
Yeah. And then Kevin Gausman, what would you put on? Maybe to the left of that? Or
I'd say he used to be on that side, and when he was more electric, he was not as good. And then he shifted this way
to the Kraft. Yeah.
And I mean, he developed that splitter. He started throwing it more. He realized he couldn't blow his fastball by everybody. I think that's a good. I feel like there's more of those guys that go from super athletic across, and they get better, rather than the guys, because you don't really just gain athleticism as you get older.
No, you don't.
It really is. It's the people that I don't know. It's an interesting.
Yeah,
I like this debate. This is fun.
That happens a lot with pitchers. I would say peak Clayton Kershaw was the same way. He had stuff, but he knew how to throw it.
I think he just debuted right here in the middle. He was gone.
Oh, he was perfect right balance from the beginning. To begin with.
Wow. I mean, he had control problems, but
CC Sabathia was definitely a thrower at the beginning of his career, and then he figured out how to pitch, and he became a better pitcher for it. And then he had to rely on that as he got on the Yankees and he got older because he couldn't throw as hard. So,
but as you could tell, I mean, we're talking about the athletic guys trying to be more balanced. We're talking about the guys with the great stuff trying to be more balanced. And I guess that ultimately is the reason why the guys with the great stuff and the great athleticism get the eyeballs on them, because if they can just hone in on those skills and make them go more towards the middle and become baseball players, I can see why those guys get a lot of play. Because I think Sean made it that's a great point by you, Sean, is you're not going to, these guys on the skill side of things, to the talent side of things only, they're not going to get any more athletic. I mean, you can work on some things. You can work on foot speed. You can work on bat speed. You can work on all types of these things. But you can't get, I mean, I guess you can get stronger. You can, Well, when I say get stronger, the first thing that popped in my head, well, Brett Boone, like, okay, maybe that's not a good example.
Barry Bonds.
Well, no, hold on, now, come on. But yeah, Brett Boone's, and maybe that's not a good example, but maybe you could get a little bit bulkier, and that will help you extend the ball by a few more feet, which might be all the difference to hit more home runs and whatever, or you can change your approach to get better results that translate into more physical attributes. But you're right, you have limited up. I guess that's why they call it upside, right? Because it's a safe floor, limited upside. So the Ben Zorbis of the world will stay more closer to the extreme left side of the chart on the skill set. Same thing with the crafty guys, with Kyle Hendricks and maybe Adam Wainwright. But remember, Adam Wainwright I think he had electric stuff when he first started out. Yeah. And then as the year, I mean, that's just normal age and tear and wear and tear, and that he's just been going to the left side and become a command artist, so to speak. Who was going to talk right now? I heard a noise.
I was going to mention I mentioned him in the chat about a guy that I wanted to talk about in this episode as a guy who's not in any top 100. He's played for two different systems now, originally in Kansas City, and he's having like the stupidest minor league year I've seen in a while. And that's Estuary Ruiz, who was a second baseman originally, converted to center field now with the Padres. And last year in 2021, he spent all of it at Double-A, played 84 games, batted 249, 328, 411, whatever. And his calling card, going back to his time in Kansas City, which should give it away, has been speed. In the minors so far, he's stolen 204 bases in 466 games. So that's the stolen base every other game. And this year already, he's played in 59 games between Double-A and Triple-A, and he's stolen 46 bases in 59 games, and he's been caught 8 times. He has a 39-50 walk to strikeout and 364, 49, 646. That's a 1,135 OPS. It's insane. And this guy kind of came out of nowhere. Like, he's had a couple of good average hitting seasons, and even, slugging back in his time in Kansas City, but he was always more of the tiny guy who hits the ball and runs fast, gets triples. I mean, he had 10 triples in 2017. When he had a 602 slug. He only had 4 home runs that year, but he had 20 doubles, 10 triples. And
would you say he's comparable to minor league Billy Hamilton with more power?
I think he's hitting more. Billy Hamilton had a lot of seasons where he walked a bunch, didn't he, in the minors? This year
he would have a high
this year is the
percentage.
First year where Ruiz has really walked comparable to his strikeouts. Last year in 2019, he only walked 26 times to 101 strikeouts, or not last year, in 2019. And then last year it was 28 walks to 73 strikeouts. So he walked about the same, struck out less. And then this year, I mean, it's an insane plate discipline thing to see. And of course, the more he gets on base, we have a 490 on base with his speed. Of course, you're going to steal, a crazy amount of bases. But here's a guy who is super, super athletic. And now it seems like he's coming back towards the middle. And as he comes back towards the middle, he becomes a more well-rounded ball player. And of course, he's in the PCL now. And so he's hit 4 home runs in his first 10 games. He had 9 home runs in the Texas League, which, depending on where you are in the Texas League, is either super batter friendly or not batter friendly at all. And I can't remember if San Antonio is, but he had 9 home runs there. So it's a really interesting, I don't know. I picked him up. He was, nobody in my 30-team league had him towards the beginning of the year. I think Andrew had picked him up in April and then dropped him a few days later, and I picked him up. And this guy could be a fantasy monster. But have you heard? Most people haven't heard of him. They have no real clue outside of, Padres fans who have been watching this. And I kind of searched him on Twitter, and everyone's like, oh, call up Ruiz. And I'm like, okay.
What's his first name again? I'm sorry.
Estuary. EST. Yeah, like the water thing.
Oh.
I don't think it's spelled the exact same way, but ESTEURY. I might be Estuary.
Esteury Ruiz.
But it's like one of those very interesting prospect things where it's like, hey, this guy's always run fast, but doesn't really hit enough. Then he starts hitting enough, and you're like, well, what if it's? And then you go and I look at his, batted ball profile, and it's more line drives. I mean, it's the highest line drive rate of his career by far.
Right.
For a speed guy in AA when he started off this great year, it was the lowest ground ball rate of his minor league career. And you would think a guy with speed, you want to put the ball on the ground, but no. And this is where the power might be coming from. So,
well, 70 graded speed over at Fangraphs, 35 plus future value. He's already 23 years old though. So, but late bloomers do exist. Billy Hamilton. I want to get back to Billy Hamilton really quick. I just want to shout out the numbers here. A-ball 2011, 340 on base percentage, stole 103 stolen bases. But that was the thing that got me excited about a guy like Billy Hamilton. Well, not only is he fast and he steals a lot of bases, but he gets on base. 12.8.
Yeah, his walk rates were high. And I remember we've talked about him on a prior episode, and I was shocked to see that he had some years where he was, like 9, 10, 11% walk rate.
Yeah, he was 8.5 in 2011. 2012, 104 stolen bases, 12.8 walk rate, 413 on base percentage. AA, 51 stolen bases, 16.9% walk rate, 406 on base percentage. And then in 2013, he gets a AAA, plays 123 games, 75 stolen bases, but only a 6.9% walk rate and a 308 on base percentage before the Reds say, you know what, he's ready. And then, of course, he struggled with. He actually had a good start to the Reds, but it was all downhill after that.
He was supposed to be the Rookie of the Year. He was the clear-cut Rookie of the Year favorite in 2014 until late May. And then some guy, Jake DeGrom, was promoted.
Well, even then, Billy Hamilton just struggled that year, like mightily. He just could not replicate. And
he was almost a 3-win player that year.
What, in 2014 for
2014?
Yeah,
defense.
Center fielders get a lot of bricks, man, as we've seen.
6 home runs, 56 stolen bases. He probably could have won a Rookie of the Year just because that class was so weak. Like with just posting like that many stolen bases, they probably would have given it to him.
So I guess he's always had the respectable walk rates, but nothing close to matching his production in the minor league. So I want to finish the show with this. We'll start with Austin. What do we do here? What do we gain from talking about this in terms of eyeballing minor leaguers for your favorite teams, for Major League Baseball as a general, and most importantly for us competitors here for fantasy leagues? I mean, should we still trust the prospect list? Should we trust the numbers more, the production? What's your takeaway from this show here, Austin?
I think the takeaway from this show and for me in general this year is to not rely as much on the list, because the list is not necessarily an end all be all when it comes to who is going to produce. It could be a good indicator as to in keeper leagues or dynasty leagues as to who you might want to pick up in terms of putting them in the minors in the idea of replacing them or using them as a replacement for someone in your actual lineup. But I think the takeaway is the list should not be an end all be all when you're evaluating players. You should take the time, look at every team's not all the minor leaguers, because we can't do that. I don't do this for a living, so I can't do that.
Right.
But take a look at, don't just take a look at your favorite team. Take a look at everybody, everybody's team, and who's actually producing in the minor leagues and who's not. And take a look at some of the numbers and just see if you see any holes, or if it's a type of player that you like. So I think there's a lot more factors that go into it than just, he's ranked number 15 on this list, I'm gonna pick him up.
Yeah, and that was a big thing when Yu Darvish got traded to the Padres. Was like, the Cubs got fleeced. They got a bunch of no-name prospects. They're not even ranked.
I hate that. I hate that.
Everybody trashed that. I remember my guy Vince from Dong City went on and just completely trashed it. Everybody trashed it, but one guy did not trash it. And you gotta, Sean, help me with the name. It's the guy from Fangraphs, the guy who basically is in charge of the whole minor league thing.
Long and Hands, or
Aaron,
because I was saying, I think he's with like ESPN now. He might still do some stuff with Fangraphs, but
I wasn't aware of that. Okay, so they're all moving on.
Or maybe McDaniels is the one that went to ESPN and Long and Hands stayed.
Okay. Well, Longer Hands, went on the Ben Lindbergh podcast, the Effectively Wild podcast, and he actually loved the trade for the Cubs. Got 4 teenagers back. They're not ranked. They're ranked now, I can tell you that much, but they weren't ranked at that moment. But that's okay. I mean, they're still developing. They're only teenagers. Let's wait and see approach, but they do have some decent tools. They do have some production value to them. So I think the Cubs made out pretty well, all things considered. That was their thing. And now those 4 guys you might see them in the next couple of years. We'll see. Nothing's guaranteed. But my point is, just because they're not ranked, or they were not ranked in the Padres system, which is a very deep system, by the way. They weren't ranked at that time, I should say. It doesn't mean it's all over. It doesn't mean that these guys are not going to amount to anything. Yeah, maybe they have limited upside, or maybe they don't. Maybe a couple of those guys, I forgot their names. Who exactly had the high
Casey
upside?
And
no, I'm trying to specifically who had the high upside on there's 2 players in particular who had the high upside, and I can't remember.
Well, I'll tell you, Yu Darvish was traded with Victor Caratini to the Padres for Zach Davies, Ismael Mena, Reginald Preciado.
I think he had the high upside there.
Yeah,
and Yason Santana and Owen Casey.
I think Yason Santana was the other guy with the high prospect pedigree upside, whatever you want to call it. So don't get discouraged. Just and before I get to you, Sean, I just wanted to tell that little anecdote, because like I said, I think that's part of the point. Like, oh man, people just put so much stock on these rankings. It's if you're not, I mean, I'll put it this way. When Fernando Tatis got traded to the Padres for James Shields, Tatis was not a ranked prospect for the White Sox at that point.
He was 6 to 17.
That was 6, 7.
I think he would have been. Yeah, I know, but he was like 17, I think.
His age.
Yeah. His age. Yes. He was 17 years old at that time.
Yeah, I mean, those are the prospects I avoid like the plague, and that is probably my flaw, and I should work on it. But oh my God, when people are drafting like the J2 guys, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like, I'll draft a prep right-handed pitcher with upside before I get the 17-year-old prospect who's tearing up the showcases in the Dominican.
Yeah,
because I have to wait till they get stateside, because that's like when it really starts to click for me. It's like, okay, they're holding their own, but oh my God, the 17-year-olds that haven't even played like a professional game yet, no, can't do it. I can't do it.
You talk about athletic freaks, man. You. I don't know. I don't want to, shortchange the Latino players that play on the islands and stuff, but there's some freakish athletes.
Oh yeah, there. I mean Jason Dominguez. But I like I said, I wasn't going to touch him. I knew I was not going to be a guy that would trade for him, draft him, whatever.
Right. Just
because I want something a little bit more safe.
Yeah. So with all that being said, Sean, what's your takeaway from this episode? What's your takeaway about this whole landscape of minor league prospects and stuff like that?
I really liked how you kind of put it with you got the athletic and then you got the skilled.
Yeah. And
it's a matter of how they can develop towards the middle rather than just stay in their corner. Because if you stay in your corner, you're going to be Victor Robles, Christian Pache. If you stay in your corner on the other side, you're going to be
Chase Peterson.
That is honestly a really good comp. Even though he's an athletic player, he wasn't. He has 8 stolen base. Yeah, but even then, he was just a sound utility player. Keith Hernandez was gushing over him when the Mets were playing the Brewers. He was like, Chase Peterson is a real good little utility player. And then he said,
grinder.
He said, I shouldn't call him little. I think he's bigger than me. But it's like, I mean, you have the upside of, a full ability guy over a full. I mean, if you're a full ability guy, you're probably going to make the majors and stick around. You're going to be Chase Peterson, but it's about how those guys can kind of meet towards the middle and finding those guys that really aren't off to one side or the other.
So just trying to look for a balance, but and then how do you do it though? I mean, for that we would have to keep going by these lists, or do we just?
I think you have to find maybe some guys that are on the list, some guys that aren't on the list, or at least use the guys that are ranked high on these lists and go and look to see the teams they're playing. See what league they're playing, see their own teammates, and see if there's one of their teammates is having a great year, but they're not really getting talked about. Well, you have to think these guys, they're facing the same pitchers, they're playing in the same stadiums. Like, so the context for these guys should be pretty equally similar. But if this guy's highly ranked and the other one isn't, maybe I should look at the guy that isn't as highly ranked, but is having just as good a year. That happened a lot on when I worked for the Biscuits. Bruhan came up, but it was like Taylor Walls looked really good. And I mean, it was just a very weird because there were a lot of top prospects on the team, Josh Lowe. Yeah. But then you look and I'm like, I see Dalton Kelly and I'm like, dang, Dalton Kelly's kind of good. But it was just a really interesting thing. So you got to use them both. Don't use the list just to be like, oh, I want the highest guy on this list I can. No, use it to like maybe compare with guys that aren't on the list.
Yeah. Your story kind of reminded me of how NBA scouts would go to Kansas and Lawrence, Kansas, and watch the Jayhawks play because they want to see how good Andrew Wiggins is. And then coming out of that, out of those games and those practices, coming blown away by Joel Embiid. So that's kind of, you never know, right? You never know who you're going to see. Really quick, since I asked Austin, I might as well ask you, just give me a quick answer. Out of the top 5 players on this list that you see here, Rushman, Witt, Rodriguez, Torkelson, or Riley Green, who's going to be the better player long-term? Yeah, I know you want to say Francisco Alvarez, but I didn't ask that.
I don't want to say Alvarez. I think that's a really interesting Austin.
No, I already said Rodriguez, so it's
I didn't even hear him say Rodriguez. Oh,
yeah. So that's why I think I forgot to ask you this.
Okay, so you said Torkelson, Witt, and Green.
Rushman, Witt, Rodriguez, Torkelson, Green. Those are the top 5 Fangraphs guys right there.
Oh God, that's tough. My gut wants to say Torkelson, but I really want to go Green because, well, one, he's a lefty.
I had a feeling, but you got to pick one. Hurry up.
Yeah, I'm going Riley Green.
All right. Well, he got called up yesterday or today.
Got his first major league hit yesterday.
Oh, okay. Oh, he did. Okay.
Little bloop single.
Oh,
that's how all the greats start.
Yeah, with a little Texas leaguer out the middle.
There you go.
Mike Trout's first hit didn't go all of 15 feet.
Hey. Really? I've never seen what his first career hit was.
His first hit was off the end of the bat, a little bunt single.
And I'm sure he had posted a stupid good sprint time to first base.
I'm sure he did. I watched it live. I was like, really? That is how he's going to start his career? He didn't go all of 15 feet. Like, come on.
But, well, to wrap this up, just to put my final thoughts in here, I think like I've been telling all along, I think I've had more fun looking for minor league players, looking at their statistics and making some context, adding some context to them and making some decisions that way than just looking at because I mean, we're seeing the top 10 and a lot of these guys are struggling in the majors right now, or they're struggling at AAA, or they're injured, or they're not playing up to par. So I don't know. I think it's especially from a fantasy perspective, I think it's just more fun to just go on Fangraphs and start filtering players and come up with the names. And yeah, it's fun to look at their prospect rates too, to kind of help you gauge. It does tell a story. It is a kind of I do consider it like a narrative base of those prospect rates. Someone, like I said, someone took the time to put a number on their abilities, on their hit tool, their power tool, their fielding, and their arm, and their future value and all that. So it's interesting, but it's just it's not an exact science. It's very frustrating. So I guess, yeah, maybe we as baseball fans in general, whether you play fantasy baseball or not, we should do better in trying to come up with some of these evaluations, because as you guys can see, we cannot just solely trust and just lean heavily on these rankings. I mean, I think fans they're going to keep doing it because it's just the easiest way to do it. Oh, well, this guy's a number 2 prospect and that guy's like the number 11 prospect. So therefore number 2 is better than number 11. The Michael Jordan logic, where last I checked, 5 beats 2 all the time. So that was his quote when he was trying to figure out, they asked, I think Amar Rashad asked him, Michael, who do you think is the better player, Kobe Bryant or LeBron James? And Jordan, was trying to be apolitical about it. But at the end, it's like, well, last I checked, 5 beats 2 all the time, with 5 championships for Bryant, 2 for LeBron. Therefore, team accomplishments are always better than individual accomplishments when comparing individuals, right? But that's another story for another time. Sean, were you going to say something? Are you going to add something there?
You got it.
Okay. For Sean, that's Austin. I am Felipe. Happy Father's Day to everybody. We will see you all next week.
Deuces.
Adios.